The fluorescent lights of Chicago's Millennium Tower Hotel buzzed overhead as Amira Wright balanced 3 champagne trays, her plus-sized frame moving with practiced efficiency through the anniversary gala. Her dark skin glistened with nervous sweat, not from the physical labor, but from the man watching her from across the marble floor. Kim Hyun-woo, the Korean Mafia boss, stood in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than her yearly salary, his sharp jawline set in permanent disapproval. Everyone knew who he was. Everyone knew what he controlled. And tonight, Amira had committed the unforgivable sin of existing in his space. She'd accidentally brushed past him while serving drinks. That was all. A simple, unavoidable contact in a crowded room. But for Kim Hyun-woo, it was enough. You. His voice cut through the classical music like a blade through silk. Come here. Amira's heart hammered against her ribs. The other servers had warned her. Don't look at him. Don't speak to him. Don't breathe near him unless you want your life destroyed. She approached slowly, setting down her tray with trembling hands. Around them, the gala's elite guests fell silent, sensing blood in the water. Do you know who I am? Kim Hyun-woo's accent was slight but precise, each word measured like a threat. Yes, sir, I apologize for... Apologize? He stepped closer, his cologne expensive and suffocating. You waddle through my event like an elephant in a china shop, spill champagne on a $5,000 suit, and you think sorry fixes this? Amira's face burned. She hadn't spilled anything. The champagne stain on his cuff was from earlier. She'd seen another server accidentally splash him. But contradicting Kim Hyun-woo was suicide. Look at you. He continued, his voice dropping to a cruel whisper that somehow carried across the entire ballroom. Overweight, clumsy, taking up space you haven't earned. Do you know what I see when I look at you? Someone who doesn't respect herself enough to control her own body, working a job she's too incompetent to perform. The words landed like physical blows. Amira had spent 28 years building armor against fat shaming, against racism, against men who thought her body was public property for commentary. But hearing it here, now, in front of Chicago's most powerful people, shattered something inside her. In my country, Kim Hyun-woo said, circling her like a predator, we value discipline, restraint. You Americans celebrate mediocrity and call it body positivity. You're a perfect example of what's wrong with this city's service industry. Lazy, unprofessional, taking jobs from people who actually deserve them. Tears threatened, but Amira blinked them back. She wouldn't give him that satisfaction. Get out of my sight. And tell your manager I want you fired before this event ends. Someone this careless doesn't deserve employment. Amira walked out of the Millennium Tower Hotel that night with her head high and her soul crushed. The manager had indeed fired her, couldn't risk offending Kim Hyun-woo. The other servers avoided her eyes, grateful it wasn't them. She took the bus home to her studio apartment in Inglewood, staring at her reflection in the dark window. Fat, clumsy, lazy. The words echoed like a curse. That night changed everything. What Amira didn't know, what nobody at that gala knew, was that 3 hours after humiliating her, Kim Hyun-woo would make a decision that altered both their lives forever. The Chicago wind cut through Amira's jacket as she maneuvered the double stroller up the ramp to her new apartment building in Bronzeville. Winter had arrived early this year, and the twins, Minho and Zara, were bundled in matching navy snowsuits, their faces the perfect blend of her warm brown skin and their father's sharp Korean features. She'd discovered the pregnancy 6 weeks after that humiliating night. The timeline was impossible to deny. A moment of weakness, a hotel room she barely remembered, champagne she shouldn't have drunk while drowning her sorrows at a friend's party. She'd never gotten the man's name, never saw his face clearly in the dim lighting, but the twins' features told the story her memory couldn't. Dark hair, almond-shaped eyes, that distinctive jawline. Kim Hyun-woo. The realization had hit her at 4 months pregnant, staring at a news article about a Mafia crackdown. His photograph had stared back from her phone screen, and Amira's hands had shaken so violently she'd dropped the device. She'd never contacted him, never even considered it. The man who'd called her worthless, who'd destroyed her career with a few words, who'd made her feel invisible, he was the father of her children. The irony was almost poetic. But Amira Wright had spent 9 months transforming humiliation into fuel. She'd enrolled in online cybersecurity courses during her pregnancy, learning digital protection protocols between morning sickness sessions. She'd studied Mafia organizational structures, not out of fascination, but survival. If Kim Hyun-woo ever discovered the twins, she needed to understand his world well enough to navigate it. She'd given birth alone, checked herself out of the hospital after 20 hours, and built a life from scratch. No family support, her parents had passed years ago. No friends willing to help with twins from a one-night stand with a crime lord. Just Amira, her intelligence, and her absolute refusal to be broken. The apartment building's lobby was modest but secure. Amira had chosen it specifically for the reinforced entry system, the cameras at every angle, the elderly Korean superintendent who asked no questions but watched everyone who came and went. She wrestled the stroller through the doorway, nodding at Yejun Park, the superintendent, who was watering plants near the mailboxes. "Miss Wright," he greeted, his accent thick but warm. "The babies are getting so big." "Growing every day," Amira replied, smiling despite her exhaustion. She'd been up since 4 with Minho's teething pain. Yejun's eyes lingered on the twins with an expression Amira couldn't quite read. Recognition? Concern? She dismissed it. Yejun was 73 and harmless. The elevator groaned to the 3rd floor. Amira's apartment was small, just 2 bedrooms, barely 800 square feet. But it was clean, paid for through her new remote work as a junior cybersecurity analyst, and most importantly, it was hers. She unlocked 3 separate deadbolts, a habit she'd developed after researching home invasions connected to organized crime, and pushed the stroller inside. The apartment smelled like the lavender oil she diffused to help the twins sleep. Toys were organized in labeled bins. A corkboard on the wall displayed her carefully plotted schedule, feeding times, nap windows, her work hours, emergency protocols. Amira had become a master of controlled chaos. She lifted Zara first, the baby girl cooing and reaching for her mother's braids. Then Minho, heavier and already showing signs of his father's build. "All right, my loves," Amira whispered, settling into the nursing chair she'd bought second-hand. "Let's get you fed before Mama's meeting." Her phone buzzed. A Slack message from her supervisor at Cypher Shield Security. "Conference call at 2 p.m. Be ready to present your threat assessment." Amira had impressed them during her 3-month probation. Her ability to identify security vulnerabilities was uncanny, perhaps because she'd spent months studying how criminals exploited digital systems. She'd even flagged a potential breach that saved the company $200,000. She was good at her job, better than good. The humiliation from 9 months ago had forged her into someone formidable. As she nursed the twins, Amira's mind wandered to the plan she'd been crafting, the Chicago suburbs she'd researched, the quiet neighborhood in Evanston with excellent schools and low crime, the fake identification documents she'd sourced through a surprisingly legal service for domestic violence survivors. Technically, she qualified, given Kim Hyun-woo's verbal abuse. She'd move in 6 months, disappear into suburban anonymity, raise the twins far from their father's dangerous world. It was a solid plan. It lasted exactly 4 more hours. At 6:30 p.m., 3 sharp knocks rattled Amira's door. She froze, glancing at the twins sleeping in their pack-and-play. Nobody knocked like that. Not the mailman, not her neighbor Rosa, who usually just texted. 3 more knocks, precise, demanding. Amira checked her phone's security camera app. She'd installed a wireless doorbell camera her 2nd week in the apartment. The screen showed a man in a black suit, hands clasped in front of him, face angled slightly away from the camera. Professional. too professional. Her heart began the familiar hammer of fear, but Amira forced her breathing steady. She'd trained for this possibility. Hoped it would never come, but trained anyway. She approached the door, keeping her voice calm. "Can I help you? Miss Amira Wright?" The man's voice was accented, Korean. "Mr. Kim requests a moment of your time." The floor seemed to tilt. "No, not yet, not now. I think you have the wrong person," Amira said, hating the slight tremor in her voice. "We both know that's not true, Miss Wright. Mr. Kim is waiting in the car downstairs. He'd prefer a civil conversation, but he's prepared to be less civil if necessary." Threat wrapped in politeness, the Mafia special. Amira's mind raced. She could refuse, call the police, but what would she say? A crime lord wants to talk to me about the twins he doesn't know he fathered after he humiliated me 9 months ago? She glanced at Minho and Zara, their tiny chests rising and falling in perfect synchronization. Everything she'd built was about to collapse. 5 minutes, Amira said finally. "I need to arrange childcare. Mr. Kim is aware of the children, Miss Wright. That's why he's here." Of course he knew. Somehow he knew. Amira texted Rosa, her neighbor. "Emergency. Can you watch the twins for an hour? We'll pay double." Rosa's response came immediately. "Doors open. Bring 'em over." Thank God for Rosa Martinez, the 60-year-old grandmother who'd become Amira's unlikely ally. Former nurse, no nonsense, asked no questions, loved babies. Amira transferred the still sleeping twins to their stroller, her hands steadier than she expected. She'd spent 9 months preparing for various disasters. This was just another threat to neutralize. She wheeled the stroller to Rosa's apartment 2 doors down, gave quick instructions, and returned to face whatever waited downstairs. The man in the black suit was still there. He gestured toward the elevator with practiced courtesy. "After you, Miss Wright." The descent felt eternal. Amira studied her reflection in the elevator's scratched metal doors. She'd lost most of the pregnancy weight through sheer stress and constant activity. Her hair was pulled back in a practical ponytail. She wore leggings and an oversized northwestern hoodie, armor of a different kind. She looked nothing like the desperate server from 9 months ago. She looked like someone who'd survived. The lobby was empty except for Ye Jun, who very deliberately focused on his newspaper. Outside, a black Mercedes SUV idled at the curb, windows tinted dark enough to be illegal. The suited man opened the rear passenger door. Kim Hyun-woo sat inside, looking exactly as Amira remembered, sharp, controlled, dangerous. But something was different. His jaw was tighter. His eyes held something that might have been uncertainty. Amira climbed in before she could second-guess herself. The door closed with the heavy thunk of German engineering, sealing her in with the man who'd destroyed her life and fathered her children in the span of 24 hours. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then Kim Hyun-woo said, very quietly, "The twins. They're mine." It wasn't a question. Amira met his gaze directly, remembering every word he'd said to her 9 months ago. Fat, lazy, worthless. "Yes," she said simply. She watched him process this, saw the calculations running behind his dark eyes. "Why didn't you tell me?" His voice was controlled, but she detected something underneath. Anger? Confusion? "Why would I?" Amira's tone was flat, factual. "You made it very clear what you thought of me. I didn't want your money, your involvement, or your pity. I still don't. Those are my children. Those are my children," Amira corrected, steel entering her voice. "You contributed DNA. I contributed everything else. 9 months of pregnancy alone, labor alone, every sleepless night, every feeding, every moment of terror that someone from your world would discover them and put them in danger. That's all mine." Kim Hyun-woo's expression shifted. "How did you know to be afraid of my world?" Amira almost smiled. "You think I'm stupid? After what happened at the gala, I researched you, learned exactly who you are, what you control, how your organization operates. I studied Mafia structure, digital security, safe relocation protocols. I prepared for every contingency, including this conversation. She watched his eyebrows rise slightly. Good, let him be surprised. So here's what happens now, Amira continued, leaning forward slightly. I acknowledge you're their biological father. You want involvement? Fine, but it's on my terms, following my rules, with my complete oversight. You don't get to walk into their lives wielding power and money and think that erases 9 months of absence. I didn't know they existed, Kim Hyun-woo said quietly. And whose fault is that? Amira shot back. You were too busy humiliating me to notice we'd slept together, too busy destroying my career to consider consequences. The words hung in the air like smoke. Kim Hyun-woo looked away first, a concession that shocked Amira more than anything else. You're right, he said finally. What I said to you that night was cruel and unjustified. You brushed past me accidentally, and I needed to assert dominance in front of people who question my authority daily. You were convenient, vulnerable. I chose cruelty because it was easy. Amira hadn't expected an apology, didn't know what to do with it. I can't undo those words, he continued, but I can ensure you and the twins are protected. My enemies are numerous. If they discover I have children, those babies become leverage. You've prepared for contingencies, that's smart, but you don't know how deep this goes. Then educate me, Amira said. Don't protect me like I'm helpless. Give me information so I can protect them myself. Something flickered across Kim Hyun-woo's face. Respect? There's a faction in my organization, he began, his voice taking on a different quality, less boss, more strategist, led by a man named Takeshi Yoshida. He's been challenging my authority for 6 months, looking for weaknesses. If he discovers the twins, he'll use them against you, Amira finished. Basic leverage strategy. So what's your plan? Kim Hyun-woo studied her with new intensity. You really did research this. I told you, I prepared. Amira pulled out her phone, opening a notes app. I've already identified 3 potential threats in your organization based on public records and news reports. Yoshida's one. There's also Dmitry Volkov, your Russian supply connection who's been undercutting prices. And internally, your second in command, whoever that is, probably resents your authority. She looked up to find Kim Hyun-woo staring at her like he was seeing her for the first time. His name is Taeyong-no, Kim Hyun-woo said slowly, and you're right. He's been positioning himself for a power play. Then here's what we do, Amira said, her mind already working through the problem like a cybersecurity threat assessment. We keep the twins' existence completely compartmentalized. Only people with absolute loyalty know. We create a cover story for any resources you provide me. Make it look like a business arrangement, not personal. We establish communication protocols that can't be traced or intercepted. You've thought about this. I think about everything. Amira locked her phone. I've spent 9 months thinking about everything. While you were running your empire, I was building a fortress for our children using nothing but intelligence and determination. The word "our" slipped out accidentally, but Amira didn't take it back. Kim Hyun-woo was quiet for a long moment. Then, I want to meet them, properly. Amira considered this. Not tonight. They're sleeping at my neighbor's apartment, and disrupting their schedule causes chaos. But tomorrow, 6 p.m., my apartment. You come alone. No security detail in the building. And Hyun-woo, she used his first name deliberately, establishing equality. You get 1 hour. And if you ever speak to me the way you did at that gala, this arrangement ends immediately. I don't care how dangerous your world is. My children will not grow up watching their father degrade their mother. Understood? He nodded slowly. Understood. Amira opened the car door herself before his driver could, stepping out into the cold Chicago night. She'd just negotiated with a Mafia boss and won. The old Amira, the one who'd left that gala in tears, wouldn't have believed it possible, but that Amira was dead. This Amira was just getting started. The next 18 hours passed in controlled preparation. Amira worked her remote job with fierce focus, completing her threat assessment presentation early and impressing her supervisor enough to earn praise in the company-wide Slack. Between tasks, she researched more about Kim Hyun-woo's specific operations. The man controlled shipping routes through Chicago's port system, had connections to 3 city council members, and laundered money through a network of legitimate businesses, including restaurants, dry cleaners, and import shops. Standard Mafia infrastructure, nothing surprising. What interested Amira more was the pattern of his territorial disputes. Kim Hyun-woo was strategic, not impulsive. He avoided unnecessary violence, preferring economic pressure and psychological warfare. His reputation was built on calculated cruelty, not mindless brutality, which made his public humiliation of her 9 months ago even more revealing. He needed to assert dominance, had chosen her as a convenient target. The psychology was textbook. Amira had read enough about power dynamics in criminal organizations to recognize it, but understanding someone's motivation didn't excuse their actions. At 5:30 p.m., she bathed the twins, dressed them in the cute outfits her neighbor Rosa had gifted, Minho in a tiny button-up shirt, Zara in a dress with flowers. At 7 months old, they were becoming more alert, more interactive. Minho had Kim Hyun-woo's serious expression. Zara had Amira's bright curiosity. They were perfect. At exactly 6 p.m., 3 knocks sounded on her door. Amira checked the camera. Kim Hyun-woo stood alone, dressed more casually than yesterday. Dark jeans, a black sweater, no visible weapons. He'd followed her instructions. She opened the door. He stood in the hallway, this powerful man who terrified half of Chicago's underworld, looking suddenly uncertain. "Come in," Amira said, stepping aside. Kim Hyun-woo entered her small apartment, his presence seeming to fill the entire space. He was tall, she'd forgotten how tall, and his eyes immediately found the pack-and-play where the twins were playing with soft blocks. He froze. Amira watched him process the reality of fatherhood. It was one thing to know intellectually that he had children, another entirely to see them, hear them, understand that these tiny humans carried his DNA. "Can I?" He gestured toward them. "Sit on the floor, they're more comfortable at their level, and move slowly." Minho startles easily. Kim Hyun-woo lowered himself to the carpet with surprising grace. Up close, the twins' features were unmistakable. The same dark hair, the same eye shape, the same jawline that would one day break hearts. Zara noticed him first, her eyes widening with interest. She reached out a chubby hand. Kim Hyun-woo extended his finger, and Zara grabbed it with that death grip babies have. He looked utterly lost. "Support her back," Amira said quietly, settling onto the couch. "She's trying to pull herself up." He adjusted, cradling Zara's back as she used his finger for leverage. Minho crawled over, curious about this new person. For 10 minutes, Amira watched the most feared man in Chicago's criminal underworld play with blocks with his children. It was surreal. "They're beautiful," he finally said, his voice rough. "They're mine," Amira replied, not cruelly, just factually. "You're welcome in their lives, but I'm their world. That doesn't change." Kim Hyun-woo nodded, still watching Minho try to stack a block on top of another. "What do you need? Money? Security? A better apartment?" "Information," Amira said. "I need to know exactly who in your organization might target them. I need communication protocols. I need to understand the threat landscape completely." He looked up at her. "Most people would ask for money first. I'm not most people." Amira pulled up a document on her laptop. "I've created a preliminary threat matrix based on public information, but I need insider details to make it comprehensive." She turned the screen toward him. Kim Hyun-woo's eyes widened as he scanned her work, a detailed spreadsheet listing names, known associates, threat levels, probable tactics. "Where did you learn this?" he asked. "Online cybersecurity courses, Mafia history research, pattern analysis training from my job." Amira clicked through tabs. "I've also been studying your digital footprint. Your organization's security is good, but not perfect. There's a vulnerability in how your financial transactions route through the Port Authority system. Someone with enough skill could trace it." Kim Hyun-woo stood slowly, crossing to the couch. He sat beside her, not close enough to invade her space, but near enough to study the screen. "Show me." For the next 40 minutes, Amira walked him through everything she'd discovered: the pattern of his shipments, the timing of city council votes that suspiciously aligned with his business interests, the digital trails that could, theoretically, be exploited. He listened without interrupting, his expression growing more complex with each revelation. "You're wasted as a junior analyst," he finally said. "I'm exactly where I need to be." Amira closed her laptop. "I have a clean job with clean money that supports my children. I'm not interested in joining your world." "That's not what I meant." Kim Hyun-woo gestured to her computer. "Your skills, you could consult. Legitimate cybersecurity firms would pay you 6 figures for this kind of analysis. I've been employed for 3 months. I'll get there on my own merit." He smiled slightly. "Stubborn. Determined," Amira corrected. "There's a difference." Minho chose that moment to cry, his tired cry, the one that meant he needed his evening bottle in bed. Amira stood, expertly preparing 2 bottles while simultaneously bouncing Zara on her hip. Kim Hyun-woo watched with something like awe. "You do this alone? Every day?" "Every day," Amira confirmed. "Feeding, changing, playing, working, planning. I sleep 4 hours a night. I haven't had a full meal sitting down in 7 months. But they're alive, healthy, and safe. That's what matters." She handed him Zara's bottle. "You feed her, I'll take Minho." For a moment he hesitated, then he carefully took the bottle and the baby, mimicking Amira's positioning. They sat in silence, feeding the twins. It should have been awkward, this strange parody of domestic normalcy between a mafia boss and the woman he'd humiliated. But instead, it felt oddly right. "I have a safe house," Kim Hyun-woo said quietly, "in Oak Park. It's under a shell corporation, completely untraceable to me. The security is military grade. You and the twins could live there." "No," Amira said immediately. "It's safer than no." She met his eyes over Minho's head. "I'm not going into hiding like some kept mistress. I'm building a real life for these children. Normal schools, normal friends, normal childhood. Your world doesn't get to swallow us whole. Your world might not give you a choice. Then I'll fight it." Amira's voice was steel. "I've been fighting my whole life. Fighting racism, fighting fat shaming, fighting poverty, fighting men who think they can define my worth. Your enemies are just another obstacle." Kim Hyun-woo was quiet for a long moment. "You're not afraid of me." "Should I be?" "Most people are." Amira shifted Minho to her shoulder, patting his burps for burps. "You hurt me once with words. It was cruel and unnecessary, and I'll never forget it. But I'm not most people, Hyun-woo. I don't scare easily anymore. You taught me that." He flinched slightly at her words. Good. He should feel the weight of what he'd done. "I want to make this right. Then respect my boundaries. Support the twins without trying to control me. Share information so I can make informed decisions, and never, ever treat me as less than your equal." Amira stood, taking Zara from him. "Your hour is up. You can visit again Thursday, same time." Kim Hyun-woo rose, understanding the dismissal, but at the door he paused. "I underestimated you," he said. "At the gala and every moment since. That's my failure, not yours." After he left, Amira locked all 3 deadbolts and leaned against the door. Her hands were shaking, but she was still standing. Over the next 3 weeks, a strange rhythm developed. Kim Hyun-woo visited Tuesday and Thursday evenings precisely at 6 p.m. He never stayed longer than 90 minutes. He brought no gifts, respected every boundary Amira set, and slowly learned how to be present for the twins. He was, Amira admitted privately, trying. But trying didn't erase 9 months of absence, didn't erase the humiliation, didn't erase the reality that his world was dangerous and incompatible with the life she wanted. On the 5th visit, he brought documents. "Threat assessment," he said, handing her a folder. "Everyone in my organization who might pose a risk if they learned about the twins, their methods, their weaknesses, and contingency plans." Amira flipped through the pages. It was comprehensive, more detailed than anything she could have compiled alone. Names, photographs, psychological profiles, tactical recommendations. "Yoshida is the primary concern," Kim Hyun-woo explained, settling on the floor with Minho. "He's been consolidating power, recruiting my lower-level people. If he moves against me, he'll look for leverage." So we ensure he never finds it, Amira said, studying Yoshida's file. Japanese-American, mid-40s, reputation for brutal efficiency. Not someone to underestimate. I have a proposition, Kim Hyun-woo continued. My digital security consultant is retiring. I need someone who can identify vulnerabilities before my enemies exploit them. Someone I trust completely. Amira looked up sharply. Absolutely not. Hear me out. It's a consulting contract. $50,000 for 3 months of part-time work. You'd analyze our systems remotely, flag weaknesses, never interact with anyone in the organization. Completely clean. There's nothing clean about working for the Mafia. You're already connected to me through the twins, he said quietly. This would give you insider knowledge to protect yourself, and the money would accelerate your timeline for moving to Evanston. Damn him for making sense. Amira sat back, thinking through the angles. The money was substantial, enough to cover 6 months of expenses and a security deposit on a better apartment. The knowledge would indeed help her understand threats more completely, but it crossed a line she'd sworn never to cross. I won't do anything illegal, she said finally. I won't help you hide criminal activity or facilitate anything harmful. Just security analysis. That's all. That's all I'm asking. It was a mistake. Amira knew it was a mistake, even as she nodded agreement. But she also knew that understanding his world from the inside would protect the twins better than any amount of external research. The consulting work began the following week. Kim Hyun-woo provided her with access to his organization's digital infrastructure, a complex network of encrypted communications, financial routing systems, and surveillance protocols. Amira was horrified by how vulnerable it all was. She spent her mornings working her legitimate cybersecurity job, her afternoons with the twins, her evenings analyzing Kim Hyun-woo's systems, identifying weaknesses, drafting detailed reports. She slept less than ever, but the work was fascinating in a dark way, like studying a dangerous organism under a microscope. On Thursday evening, 3 weeks into the consulting arrangement, Kim Hyun-woo arrived looking tense. What happened? Amira asked immediately. He glanced at the twins, playing contentedly in their pack-and-play, then back at her. Yoshida made his move, tried to intercept one of my shipments. It failed because we'd rerouted based on your security recommendations. Amira's blood ran cold. My recommendations prevented it? Your analysis identified the timing vulnerability he was planning to exploit. Kim Hyun-woo ran a hand through his hair, the first time she'd seen him visibly stressed. He knows someone fed me better intelligence. He's looking for the source. Does he know about me? No, but he will eventually. He's thorough. Amira's mind raced through contingencies. Then we accelerate my relocation timeline. I move to Evanston this weekend. New apartment, new identity for emergencies, complete separation from your visible operations. He'll still find you. Not if we're smarter than him. Amira pulled up her laptop, opening a planning document she'd been developing. We create a decoy, someone in your organization who appears to be your new security consultant, feeds them obvious analysis, nothing too sophisticated. Yoshida investigates them, finds a dead end. Meanwhile, I disappear into suburban anonymity. Kim Hyun-woo studied her document, his expression shifting from stressed to impressed. You've been planning this. I plan everything, Amira reminded him. Did you think I'd consult for you without an exit strategy? He almost smiled. I should have known better. They spent the next 2 hours refining the plan. Kim Hyun-woo would promote someone visible in his organization to a new security role. Meanwhile, Amira would move to a pre-arranged apartment in Evanston under a lease held by a shell company with no connection to either of them. It was risky, but staying put was riskier. I'll help you move, Kim Hyun-woo offered. No, your people will help me move. You stay visible in Chicago, establishing alibi and distance. Amira was already mentally cataloging what needed to be packed. I'll need references for the new apartment that can't be traced back to you. Done. I'll have everything arranged by tomorrow. After he left, Amira stood in her small apartment, looking at the life she'd built over 7 months. She was running again. But this time, she wasn't running in fear. She was running strategically, with resources and intelligence and a clear plan. That made all the difference. Have you ever had to completely rebuild your life after someone tried to destroy your confidence? Drop a comment and share your story. And if you're enjoying this journey of Amira's transformation, hit that like button and subscribe to Love and Tension for more stories that challenge and inspire. The Evanston apartment was everything Amira had researched it would be. A 2-bedroom corner unit in a quiet, tree-lined neighborhood with excellent schools within walking distance and a diverse community that wouldn't make her plus-sized black presence with mixed-race twins a spectacle. The building had modern security, including key card access and cameras, but nothing so obvious it would attract attention. Perfect camouflage. Kim Hyun-woo's people had executed the move with military precision. 3 men in an unmarked truck, professional and silent, had packed her entire life in 4 hours. They'd installed additional security measures she'd specified, reinforced locks, a safe room in the master bedroom closet, panic buttons connected to a private security firm. By the 3rd day in Evanston, Amira had established a new routine: morning remote work, afternoon with twins at the nearby park, evening security analysis. The consulting money hit her account exactly as promised, $50,000 that transformed her financial landscape overnight. She hated how good it felt, hated that Kim Hyun-woo's dirty money was providing clean stability for her children. But she'd learned to compartmentalize. The money was just a resource. What mattered was how she used it. On Thursday evening, her doorbell's camera showed Kim Hyun-woo waiting outside. She'd given him the new address, but hadn't expected him so soon. "You're early," she said, opening the door. "Visiting hours are still 6 p.m. This isn't a social call." His face was grim. "We have a problem." Amira's stomach clenched. "Inside, quickly." Once the door was locked, Kim Hyun-woo handed her his phone. It displayed a photograph, grainy, taken from distance, but unmistakable. Amira pushing the twin stroller outside her old Bronzeville apartment building. "Where did you get this?" she asked, her voice steady despite the fear crawling up her spine. "Yoshida's people. They've been investigating everyone connected to me. They found Ye-jun Park, your old superintendent, questioned him. Ye-jun wouldn't. He didn't have to say anything. They saw the security footage from your old building, matched timestamps with my visits. Now they're connecting dots." Amira's mind immediately shifted into threat assessment mode. Do they know about Evanston? Not yet. The lease is under a corporate shell 3 layers deep, but Yoshida is persistent. Then we need to be smarter. Amira pulled up her laptop, fingers flying across the keyboard. "I've been monitoring Yoshida's digital communications through the back-channel access you gave me. He's cautious, but everyone makes mistakes." She pulled up intercepted messages, encrypted, but she'd cracked the basic substitution cipher Yoshida's people used. Amateur work, really. "He's planning something for next Tuesday," Amira said, highlighting specific passages. "A meeting at Navy Pier, 2 p.m. He's gathering allies for what looks like a coordinated move against your operations." Kim Hyun-woo read over her shoulder, his presence close enough that she could smell his cologne, that same expensive scent from 9 months ago. It triggered memories she'd rather not examine. "How did you decrypt this?" he asked quietly. "Basic pattern analysis. His encryption is adequate for street-level operations, but not sophisticated enough to resist someone with actual cybersecurity training." Amira pulled up another screen. "And here's the interesting part. He's been communicating with Dmitry Volkov, your Russian contact. They're planning to cut you out of the port shipping routes entirely." Kim Hyun-woo was silent for a long moment. "You're better at this than my last 3 consultants combined." "I'm motivated," Amira said simply. "My children's safety depends on understanding every threat." "What would you do if this was your security analysis?" Amira considered the question. She wasn't just being asked for technical advice. He wanted strategic counsel. The shift in their dynamic was subtle but significant. "Disrupt their timeline," she said finally. "Yoshida thinks he has surprise advantage. Remove that. Feed him false intelligence that accelerates his move to next Monday instead of Tuesday. He'll act before his alliances are fully solidified. Meanwhile, you fortify your actual vulnerabilities and let him overextend. That's ruthless. That's strategic. Amira met his eyes. I'm not interested in violence, Hyun-woo, but I understand chess. Yoshida is positioning his pieces. Position yours better. A small smile crossed his face. You really should consider a career change. I have a career, and a life that doesn't involve criminal enterprises. Amira closed her laptop. But while you're paying me to consult, I'll give you my best analysis. After these 3 months, we transition to a different arrangement. You support the twins financially, visit on schedule, and I go back to my clean, normal existence. You think it'll be that simple? I think I'll make it that simple. Minho started crying from the bedroom, his hungry cry, right on schedule. Amira stood, moving with practiced efficiency toward the sound. Kim Hyun-woo followed her into the nursery, watching as she lifted Minho from his crib. Zara was still sleeping, her tiny fist curled near her face. They're getting bigger, he observed. 8 months now. Amira settled into the rocking chair, preparing to nurse. Minho's trying to pull himself up. Zara said "Mama" last week, though she probably doesn't know what it means yet. I'm missing everything. The words were quiet, almost lost beneath Minho's contented nursing sounds. You missed the first 8 months by choice, Amira said, not unkindly. The rest is up to you. But Hyun-woo, being a father isn't about witnessing milestones. It's about showing up consistently, providing stability, being someone they can trust. Can you do that while running a criminal empire? I don't know, he admitted. Amira appreciated the honesty. Then figure it out, because these children deserve better than half measures. After Minho finished eating, Kim Hyun-woo held him while Amira prepared bottles for later. It was domestic and surreal, this dangerous man cradling their son, looking utterly lost. My father was absent, always working, always building his organization. I inherited his empire, but not his attention. I swore I wouldn't repeat his mistakes. Then don't. Be present. Be honest. Be better. He looked at her over Minho's head. You make it sound simple. It is simple. Not easy, but simple. The following Monday, Amira's strategic prediction proved accurate. Yoshida moved against Kim Hyun-woo's operations early, attempting to seize control of 2 port warehouses and redirect a major shipment. But Kim Hyun-woo had already reinforced those positions based on Amira's analysis, and Yoshida's people walked into a trap. Not violence, but legal exposure. Anonymous tips to federal investigators, documented evidence of smuggling, cooperation deals that flipped Yoshida's allies. By Tuesday evening, Yoshida was in federal custody, and his organization was crumbling. Kim Hyun-woo arrived at Amira's apartment looking exhausted but satisfied. Your strategy worked. Yoshida's finished. Good. Amira handed him Zara, who was now comfortable enough with her father to reach for him eagerly. Does that mean the threat level decreases? Temporarily. Volkov will probably make a move next. He's more patient than Yoshida, more calculating. Then we plan for Volkov. Amira pulled up her threat matrix, already updating it with new intelligence. What's his typical timeline for power plays? They spent the next hour strategizing, with Kim Hyun-woo providing insider knowledge and Amira translating it into tactical recommendations. The twins played between them, oblivious to the dangerous chess game being discussed above their heads. It was during this session that Amira realized something unsettling. She was good at this. Not just competent, genuinely skilled at analyzing criminal operations and identifying vulnerabilities. The cybersecurity training gave her technical capabilities, but her natural strategic thinking made her exceptional. She could have a career in this world if she wanted. The thought terrified her, because part of her, a small, dark part she didn't want to acknowledge, found it thrilling, found the intellectual challenge intoxicating, found the power of understanding dangerous systems seductive. What are you thinking? Kim Hyun-woo asked, noticing her expression. That I need to be careful, Amira said honestly. "Your world is designed to pull people in, offer them money, power, purpose. I can't let that happen." "Why not?" "Because I want better for the twins. I want them to grow up knowing their mother built something legitimate, something clean, something they can be proud of. They could be proud of a mother who's brilliant enough to outthink career criminals." Amira laughed bitterly. "That's not how it works, Hyun-woo. You can't make crime noble by being smart about it." He was quiet for a moment. "You're right. I'm sorry." The apology caught her off guard. Kim Hyun-woo wasn't a man who apologized easily. "I want you to know," he continued, "that regardless of what happens with Volkov or anyone else, I'll honor our agreement. 3 months of consulting, then you're free. No obligations, no pressure. Just financial support for the twins and scheduled visits." "Why?" "Because you've taught me something. Watching you these past weeks, how you've built a life from nothing, how you've turned humiliation into strength, how you've protected our children while most people would have hidden or asked for rescue. It's humbling." Amira felt tears threaten. She blinked them back furiously. "Don't romanticize it. I did what I had to do." "Exactly. You did what you had to do. Most people don't. They break, or they quit, or they compromise themselves. You just got stronger." The words settled between them like a bridge. "I'm not a hero," Amira said quietly. "I'm just a woman protecting her children. That's what makes you extraordinary." 2 weeks later, everything changed. Amira was working her legitimate cybersecurity job, analyzing threat patterns for Cypher Shield security, when her personal phone buzzed with an urgent message from Kim Hyun-woo. "Don't go home. Volkov knows about Evanston. Sending extraction team now." Her blood turned to ice. She was at a coffee shop in downtown Evanston, laptop open, twins in their stroller beside her. The afternoon crowd was light. A few college students, some remote workers, nobody who looked dangerous. But if Volkov knew her location, everyone was potentially dangerous. Amira's training kicked in instantly. She closed her laptop, gathered the twins' supplies with practiced efficiency, and calmly pushed the stroller toward the exit. Her mind ran through evacuation protocols she'd memorized, but prayed she'd never need. A black SUV pulled up to the curb. The driver's window lowered, revealing a woman Amira had never seen before. Asian, mid-30s, professional demeanor. "Miss Wright? Mr. Kim sent me. We need to move now." Every instinct screamed danger. This could be Volkov's people pretending to be rescue. This could be a kidnapping. This could be... Her phone buzzed again. A video call from Kim Hyun-woo. She answered. His face filled the screen, tense but controlled. "Amira, that's Hannah Chen. She's my most trusted security specialist. Get in the vehicle. Volkov's people are 6 minutes behind you." "How do I know this isn't—" "Because I'm telling you it's not, and we don't have time for verification protocols." His voice was sharp. "Trust me or don't, but those children are in immediate danger." Amira made a split-second decision. She loaded the twins into the SUV, collapsing the stroller with the muscle memory of repetition. Hannah Chen pulled away from the curb before Amira had even fully closed the door. "Seatbelt," Hannah said calmly. "There's a car seat base already installed for the twins." Amira worked quickly, securing Min-ho and Zara into the seat while Hannah navigated through traffic with professional precision. No screeching tires, no dramatic maneuvers, just efficient, expert driving that put distance between them and the coffee shop. "Where are we going?" Amira asked. "Safe location, 40 minutes north." Kim Hyun-woo's face was still on Amira's phone screen. "Are you secure?" "For now." "What happened?" "Volkov intercepted communications. I don't know how. Your encryption should have been unbreakable. He learned about the twins, about your consulting work, about Evanston. He's planning to take them as leverage." Amira's world tilted. "How long do we have?" "Until I neutralize him? Unknown. Until he makes another attempt? Could be hours, could be days." "This is exactly what I wanted to avoid," Amira said, her voice cracking slightly. "I built a life specifically to keep them out of your world, and now—" "I know. I'm sorry. This is my failure." The apology meant nothing right now. Fear and anger twisted in Amira's chest. Min-ho started crying, sensing his mother's distress. Zara joined him, their dual wails filling the SUV. "I need to calm them. I'll call you when you're at the safe house." Kim Hyun-woo disconnected. Amira leaned back between the car seats, soothing the twins with gentle words and touches, while her mind raced through contingencies. This was the nightmare scenario, the exact situation she'd prepared for, but hoped would never materialize. Hannah Chen drove them to a house in Lake Forest, a wealthy suburb north of Chicago, the kind of place where privacy was currency and neighbors minded their own business. The house was modern, secure, and completely anonymous. Inside, 2 more security specialists were waiting, both women, both professional, both armed. "I'm Rena, former military. I'll be handling perimeter security."
"Lydia," the other said, "communications specialist. Any calls you need to make go through me first. We're assuming all your devices are compromised." Amira felt control slipping away. These people were protecting her, yes, but they were also controlling her. She didn't like it. "I need to speak with Hyun-woo," she said firmly. "Privately." Lydia set up a secure line. Kim Hyun-woo's face appeared on a tablet screen, his background some nondescript office. "Talk to me," Amira said without preamble. "What's the real situation?" "Volkov wants leverage. He knows I've been resistant to his expansion plans. He thinks if he controls you and the twins, he controls me." "Does he?" Kim Hyun-woo's jaw tightened. "Yes." At least he was honest. "What's your plan?" Amira asked. "Keep you protected while I negotiate from a position of strength. I have assets Volkov wants, shipping routes, political connections. I'll trade them for guaranteed safety. You're negotiating with my children's lives. I'm trying to save them." Amira stood, pacing the safe house living room. Min-ho and Zara were in a playpen, momentarily content with new toys the security team had provided. "Here's what I know," she said, her analytical mind cutting through emotion. "Volkov is calculating. He won't hurt the twins because they're only valuable as leverage. He might hurt me to prove a point, but the children are safe until he has what he wants from you. That's my assessment too. So we don't wait for him to make demands. We create a scenario where what he thinks he wants becomes worthless." Kim Hyun-woo leaned forward. "Explain. You said he wants your shipping routes and political connections. What if those things became publicly exposed? What if anonymous tips went to federal investigators showing your entire operation? Volkov gets nothing because there's nothing left to get. That would destroy my organization." "Yes," Amira said calmly, "it would. But it would also protect the twins. Volkov can't leverage what doesn't exist." She watched Kim Hyun-woo process this, watched him weigh his empire against his children. "You're asking me to sacrifice everything I've built," he said quietly. "I'm asking you to choose, your organization or your children. What matters more?" The silence stretched between them, heavy with implications. Finally, Kim Hyun-woo said, "Give me 24 hours. There might be another option." "Hyun-woo, 24 hours, Amira. Trust me one more time." She wanted to refuse, wanted to take control completely, remove all variables, ensure absolute safety through absolute destruction. But despite everything, despite the fear and anger and resentment, some part of her did trust him. 24 hours, she agreed. Not a minute more. The safe house was comfortable but confining. Amira spent the night feeding twins, analyzing every detail of the situation, and preparing for multiple contingencies. If Hyun-woo's plan failed, she'd implement hers. She'd already drafted the anonymous tip, compiled evidence, prepared the documentation that would dismantle his entire operation. She'd burn his world to ash if that's what it took to protect Min-ho and Zara. At 2 a.m., unable to sleep, Amira sat in the safe house's study reviewing everything she knew about Volkov. Russian immigrant, late 40s, built his organization through brutal efficiency. Unlike Kim Hyun-woo's calculated approach, Volkov preferred direct violence. He was dangerous in a different way. Her phone, the secure one Lydia had provided, buzzed with a message from Kim Hyun-woo. "Can't sleep either?" Amira responded, analyzing Volkov's patterns. "He has a tell." "What kind of tell?" "He moves aggressively when he feels cornered, but strategically when he feels confident. Right now, he's confident. That's our advantage." "How?" Amira thought through the logic. "Confident people make bigger plans. Bigger plans require more coordination. More coordination creates more vulnerabilities. We don't need to destroy him. We just need to exploit one vulnerability." "You're brilliant." "I'm desperate. There's a difference." A pause, then, "I found an option. It's risky." "Everything's risky." "I can offer Volkov something better than leverage over me. Partnership with the Yakuza connections I've been cultivating. Access to Asian markets he's been trying to break into for years. In exchange, you and the twins become completely off limits. Permanent protection, documented and enforced." Amira considered this. "What's the catch?" "He'll want verification, face-to-face meeting, tomorrow night. And if he decides to take what he wants instead of negotiating, then we implement your scorched earth plan." Amira appreciated that he'd called it what it was. "I want to be there," she typed. "Absolutely not. It's my life, my children. I don't hide while men negotiate our safety." Another pause, longer this time. "You understand how dangerous this is? I've spent 9 months understanding how dangerous everything is. I'm not fragile, Hyun-woo. Stop treating me like I need protection from reality. Fine, but you follow my lead. No promises." She could almost hear him sigh through the screen. The next day crawled by. Amira prepared the twins' emergency bags. Clothes, formula, medical records, everything they'd need if she didn't return from the meeting. She left detailed instructions with Hana about feeding schedules, sleep routines, and how to contact the one person she trusted outside this situation, Rosa Martinez, her former neighbor. As evening approached, Amira dressed carefully, not for seduction or intimidation, but for authority. Black pants, a structured blazer, minimal jewelry. She wanted to look like someone who couldn't be dismissed. Kim Hyun-woo arrived at 7 p.m., accompanied by 2 security personnel. He stopped short when he saw her. "You look like you're ready for war," he observed. "Maybe I am." The meeting location was a private room at a high-end restaurant in the Loop, neutral territory. Public enough to discourage violence, but private enough for sensitive conversation. Amira's heart hammered as they entered, but her face remained calm. She'd learned to control her expressions over 9 months of surviving impossible situations. Dmitry Volkov was already seated, flanked by his own security. He was exactly as his photos suggested, broad-shouldered, cold-eyed, radiating controlled menace. His gaze found Amira immediately. "So this is the woman causing all the complications," he said, his Russian accent thick. "I expected someone more impressive." Amira met his eyes directly. "I expected someone smart enough to recognize a losing position when he's in one." Kim Hyun-woo tensed beside her, but Volkov laughed. "She has spirit. I like that." "Let's skip the posturing," Amira said, settling into a chair uninvited. "You want leverage over Hyun-woo. He's offering you something better, access to markets you can't crack alone. Do we have a deal or not?" Volkov studied her with new interest. "You're different from his usual associates." "I'm not his associate. I'm the mother of his children, which makes me invested in outcomes, not process. So again, deal or no deal?" The negotiation that followed was tense but professional. Kim Hyun-woo outlined his proposal: full introduction to his Yakuza contacts, profit sharing on specific routes, technology transfer for smuggling operations. Volkov countered with additional demands: access to Kim Hyun-woo's political connections, share of Chicago's Port Authority contracts. Throughout it all, Amira listened, analyzed, and occasionally interrupted with pointed questions that revealed weaknesses in Volkov's position. She was, despite herself, in her element.
After 90 minutes, Volkov leaned back in his chair. "I agree to your terms," he said to Kim Hyun-woo. Then to Amira, "With one addition. I want her." The room froze. "Explain," Kim Hyun-woo said, his voice deadly quiet. "As a consultant. Not for long, 3 months, same as her arrangement with you. I need someone who can analyze my organization's vulnerabilities before my enemies do. She's clearly qualified." Amira's mind raced. This was either brilliance or disaster. "No," Kim Hyun-woo said flatly. "I'm not asking you," Volkov replied. "I'm asking her." All eyes turned to Amira. This was the moment, the decision that would define everything that came next. She could refuse, walk away clean after Kim Hyun-woo's 3 months ended, raise the twins in suburban normalcy, never touch this world again. Or she could leverage her unexpected skill into something more, use it to protect the twins from the inside, become someone these dangerous men couldn't afford to threaten. Same terms as Hyun-woo's arrangement. 50,000 for 3 months, remote work only, nothing illegal, and absolute guarantee that my children remain permanently off limits to your organization. Agreed. Kim Hyun-woo looked like he wanted to argue, but Amira silenced him with a glance. "Then we have a deal," she said. Volkov smiled. "You're wasted with legitimate work, Miss Wright. I'm exactly where I need to be." Amira echoed, what she'd told Kim Hyun-woo months ago. The meeting concluded with handshakes and formal agreements. As they left the restaurant, Kim Hyun-woo pulled Amira aside. "What are you doing?" he hissed. "Making sure no one can threaten us again," she replied calmly. "If I'm valuable to both you and Volkov, I'm protected. If I'm protected, the twins are protected. It's strategy, Hyun-woo, same as everything else. This isn't a game. I know exactly what this is." Amira's voice hardened. "This is me taking control of a situation you created. You brought me into your world when you humiliated me 9 months ago. You brought me deeper when you discovered the twins. Now I'm choosing how deep I go and on what terms. That's not recklessness. That's power. What would you do in Amira's position? Would you walk away from this world or use your skills to protect your family from the inside? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and if you're invested in seeing how Amira's story unfolds, smash that subscribe button for love and tension, where every story challenges what you think you know about strength and survival. The next 3 months were a controlled descent into chaos. Amira maintained her legitimate cybersecurity job. It was important to keep that clean income and career trajectory. But her evenings were now split between analyzing vulnerabilities for Kim Hyun-woo's organization and Dmitry Volkov's operations. The twins, now 11 months old, were her constant. Every decision, every risk, every calculation came back to them. Minho was pulling himself up on furniture. Zara had said mama, dada, and no with equal enthusiasm. They were thriving despite, or perhaps because of, Amira's fierce protection. Kim Hyun-woo visited 3 times a week now. Their relationship evolved into something neither could quite define. Not romantic, there was too much history, too much resentment for that, but not purely transactional either. Partnership, maybe. 2 people bound by children and circumstances, learning to navigate impossible terrain together. "Volkov's been quiet," Kim Hyun-woo observed one Thursday evening, watching Minho attempt to stack blocks. "Too quiet." "He's consolidating," Amira replied, reviewing data on her laptop. "I've been tracking his communications. He's using my security recommendations to restructure his entire operation. It's making him more efficient, which is dangerous." "Are you having second thoughts about consulting for him?" Amira considered the question honestly. "No, Because by consulting, I know exactly what he's planning. I see his weaknesses before he does. That's better than ignorance. She pulled up a network map she'd created, a visual representation of how Kim Hyun-woo's organization and Volkov's operations intersected, competed, and occasionally cooperated. They're both vulnerabilities to each other, she explained, highlighting specific connection points. If either one falls, the other is exposed. That's actually protective for us. They can't afford to destabilize the balance. Kim Hyun-woo studied the map with something like awe. Where did you learn this level of analysis? I didn't learn it. I developed it. Amira clicked through layers of data. When you're trying to protect children from invisible threats, you get creative. I started with basic cybersecurity principles, added organizational theory, mixed in game theory and strategic forecasting. This is just applied problem solving. You could run an empire with these skills. I'm raising children with these skills. That's harder. Minho chose that moment to successfully stack 3 blocks, his face lighting up with pride. Kim Hyun-woo applauded, and the baby beamed at his father. Small moments of normal in a profoundly abnormal situation. I've been thinking, Kim Hyun-woo said carefully, after your consulting contracts end with both me and Volkov, what's your plan? Return to normal life. Take the money I've earned, invested wisely, focus on my legitimate career. The twins start daycare soon. I'll have more time to advance at Cypher Shield. And us? The visits? Amira had been avoiding this question. You're their father. That doesn't change. But Hyun-woo, I can't keep living in your world. It's corrosive. Every day I spend analyzing criminal operations, I feel a little more of my integrity erode. I'm good at this work, and that terrifies me. Because you enjoy it? Because I'm starting to understand it, to rationalize it, to see the logic in illegal systems and find them almost elegant. She closed her laptop. That's dangerous. I can't let the twins grow up with a mother who's morally compromised. Hyun-woo was quiet for a long moment. What if I told you I'm considering leaving? Amira's head snapped up. Leaving what? The organization, all of it. He ran a hand through his hair, that tell he had when he was genuinely uncertain. I've been thinking about your scorched earth plan, about choosing the twins over the empire. What if there's a way to transition out, hand control to someone stable, take the twins and you somewhere safe, start over? You can't just quit the Mafia. No, but I can position my successor, extract myself gradually, relocate under new identities. It would take time, maybe 2 years, but it's possible. Amira searched his face for deception and found only sincerity. Why? She asked. Because you were right. What I said to you 9 months ago, calling you worthless, lazy, undeserving, that was the perspective of someone who'd spent so long in a brutal world that cruelty became reflex. But watching you these months, watching how you've built strength from humiliation, how you've protected our children while I've offered danger, it's shown me who I've become, and I don't like it. The confession hung between them. Redemption arcs are complicated. You can't erase years of violence and crime with good intentions. I know, but I can try to do better going forward. For them. He gestured to the twins. Amira wanted to believe him, wanted to trust that change was possible, but she'd learned to be skeptical of easy transformations. Show me, she said. Don't tell me you're changing. Show me through actions over time.
Then maybe I'll believe it. 2 months later, Amira's consulting contracts were approaching their end. She'd fulfilled every obligation, provided comprehensive security analysis, identified critical vulnerabilities, and ensured both Kim Hyun-woo and Dmitry Volkov's organizations were more secure than ever. Ironically, her work had made the criminal underworld safer. The moral complexity of that achievement kept her awake at night. Her legitimate career was thriving too. Cypher Shield Security had promoted her to senior analyst with a salary increase that made the consulting money less necessary. She'd even been headhunted by a major tech company for a 6-figure position. Amira had options now. Real options, built on merit and skill. The twins celebrated their first birthday in Amira's Evanston apartment, surrounded by a carefully curated guest list.
Rosa Martinez, who'd become honorary grandmother, Hannah Chen and her partner, who'd become unlikely friends, and Kim Hyun-woo, who arrived with elaborate Korean first birthday gifts that Minho and Zara immediately destroyed with delighted enthusiasm. It was chaotic and perfect, and everything Amira had fought to create. After the guests left and the twins were sleeping, Kim Hyun-woo stayed to help clean up. "I have news," he said, carefully boxing birthday decorations. "I've identified my successor, Taeyang No. We've reconciled our differences, and he's capable. The transition will begin next month." Amira stopped mid-wipe of the high chair tray. "You're serious?" "Completely. I've been liquidating assets, establishing legitimate businesses as cover, preparing identities for relocation. It'll take 18 months total, but I'm committed." She studied his face, looking for doubt or deception. Found neither. "Where would you go?" she asked. "That's up to you." "Me? If I'm leaving this life, it's to be a real father to Minho and Zara. That means being wherever you decide is best for them." The implications of that statement were enormous. "I'm not asking for a relationship," he clarified quickly. "I'm asking for partnership in raising our children, co-parents who live near each other, coordinate schedules, make decisions together, whatever that looks like for you." Amira set down the cloth, considering this carefully. "I've been looking at Portland," she admitted. "Good schools, diverse community, strong job market for cybersecurity work, far from Chicago's criminal networks. Then Portland it is." "Just like that?" "Just like that." Kim Hyun-woo smiled slightly. "You've spent a year showing me what real strength looks like, Amira. The least I can do is follow your lead." Over the next several weeks, the plan took shape. Amira accepted the tech company position, remote work with the option to relocate to their Portland office eventually. Kim Hyun-woo set up legitimate business investments in the Pacific Northwest as cover for his presence there. The transition was happening, and then, 3 weeks before Amira's consulting contracts officially ended, Dmitry Volkov called an unexpected meeting. Amira arrived at the same restaurant where they'd first negotiated, Kim Hyun-woo beside her. Her instincts were screaming warnings, but she'd learned to channel fear into focus. Volkov was already seated, but this time he was alone. No security detail, no bodyguards. That was either a show of respect or a power play. "Miss Wright, Mr. Kim." He gestured to the chairs across from him. "Thank you for coming." "You made it sound urgent," Amira replied, settling into her seat with practiced composure. "What's this about?" "Your contract ends in 3 weeks. I wanted to make an offer before you disappear into legitimate obscurity." Amira's stomach tightened. "I'm not interested in extending. Not consulting. Something bigger." Volkov leaned forward. "I'm restructuring my entire operation based on your recommendations, modernizing, digitizing, becoming less vulnerable to federal intervention. I want you to lead that transformation. Full-time position, $500,000 annually, complete autonomy over security infrastructure." The offer was staggering, life-changing money, real power. Everything Amira had told herself she didn't want. "No," she said without hesitation. Volkov's eyebrows rose. "You didn't even consider it." "I don't need to. I have children to raise, a legitimate career to build, and a life that doesn't involve criminal enterprises. Your offer is generous, but my answer is no." "Because of morality?" "Because of priorities." Amira met his gaze directly. "You see someone with valuable skills. I see a mother who needs to model integrity for her children. Those aren't compatible." Volkov studied her for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "I respect that. More than you know." He slid a folder across the table. "Then accept this instead. Documentation guaranteeing permanent protection for you and the twins from any faction of my organization. Anyone who threatens you answers to me personally. It's ironclad." Amira opened the folder, scanning the legal language. It was comprehensive, exactly the kind of guarantee she'd hoped for but never expected. "Why?" she asked. "Because you're the first person in 20 years to tell me no." Volkov smiled grimly. "That's rare in my world. It deserves protection." Kim Hyun-woo had been silent throughout the exchange, but now he spoke. I'm offering the same guarantee from my organization. Once the transition is complete, my successor will maintain that protection indefinitely." Amira looked between these two dangerous men, both offering her safety, both acknowledging her power to refuse them. It was surreal. "Then we're done here," she said, standing. "Thank you both for the protection guarantees. I'll have my lawyer review them and send confirmation." As they left the restaurant, Kim Hyun-woo said quietly, "You just turned down $500,000. "I turned down a prison sentence," Amira corrected. "Maybe not literal bars, but that life would have trapped me. I'd rather be free." The final month in Chicago was a whirlwind of endings and beginnings. Amira wrapped up her consulting contracts with detailed final reports that both Kim Hyun-woo and Volkov praised as exceptional. She transitioned fully to her new tech company position, impressing her remote team with the same analytical skills she'd honed analyzing criminal operations. She'd become formidable without becoming compromised. Rosa Martinez helped her pack, offering advice and periodic grandmother wisdom. "You're doing the right thing, Mija," she said, wrapping picture frames in newspaper. "Those babies need stability more than they need Chicago." "I'm going to miss you," Amira admitted. Rosa had been her anchor during the hardest months. "Portland's not Mars. I'll visit, you'll visit, we'll make it work." Rosa paused, studying Amira with keen eyes. "That man, Kim Hyun-woo, he's really changing?" "I think so. Time will tell." "You care about him." "I care about whether he's a good father to our children," Amira corrected. "Everything else is complicated." Rosa smiled knowingly, but said nothing more. The night before the move, Kim Hyun-woo came for a final Chicago visit. The apartment was mostly packed, boxes stacked along the walls, the twins playing in a cleared space on the floor. "I finalized the Portland arrangements," he said, handing her a folder. "I bought a house 3 blocks from yours, close enough to easy co-parenting, far enough to give you space. It's in a trust under a completely clean identity, no connection to my Chicago operations." Amira reviewed the documents. Everything was exactly as they'd discussed. No hidden complications, no last-minute power plays. "You really did it," she said softly. "I told you I would." He settled on the floor with Minho, who immediately climbed into his lap. "I'm not the same man who humiliated you 13 months ago, Amira. You made sure of that. I didn't change you. I just showed you who you could choose to be. Same thing." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the twins play. Zara was walking now, taking wobbly steps between furniture pieces. Minho was more cautious, preferring to crawl and observe. "What happens in Portland?" Kim Hyun-woo asked. "What does our co-parenting actually look like?" Amira had been thinking about this constantly. Weekly dinners, alternating weekends, shared decisions about school, healthcare, everything important. We communicate honestly, respect boundaries, and put the twins first. "What about us?" The question hung heavy. "There is no us," Amira said gently but firmly. "There's co-parents raising children together. Anything beyond that, I can't even think about it right now. Maybe never. What you said to me that night at the gala, it broke something. I've rebuilt myself, but that doesn't mean I've forgiven you." Kim Hyun-woo nodded, accepting the boundary. "Fair enough. I don't deserve forgiveness." "Maybe not, but you deserve the chance to be a good father. So let's focus on that." The next morning, professional movers loaded Amira's life into a truck headed west. She strapped the twins into their car seats, checked every detail twice, and pulled out of the Evanston parking lot without looking back. Chicago was humiliation and transformation, terror and triumph. She was grateful to leave it behind. Portland welcomed them with rain and green trees and the kind of quiet that felt like permission to breathe. The house Amira had rented was perfect, a small bungalow in a diverse neighborhood with a fenced yard and excellent schools nearby. She spent the first week unpacking, establishing routines, making the space feel like home. Kim Hyun-woo arrived on day 8, driving a modest sedan, looking almost normal in jeans and a simple sweater. "Welcome to Portland," Amira said, opening the door. He stepped inside, looking around the bright, organized space. "It suits you."
It suits us, she corrected, gesturing to where the twins were playing. Come meet your children in their actual home. That first Portland visit set the pattern. Kim Hyun-woo was punctual, respectful, fully present. He learned the twins' personalities, Minho's cautious observation, Zara's fearless exploration. He changed diapers, prepared bottles, read books with funny voices. He was trying.
Over the following months, the co-parenting arrangement evolved naturally. Tuesday and Thursday evenings, Kim Hyun-woo came for dinner. Every other weekend, the twins stayed at his house, which he'd furnished specifically for them, with cribs and toys and child-proofed everything. He was building a life that had space for fatherhood. Amira watched this transformation with cautious optimism. She'd learned not to trust easy changes, but Kim Hyun-woo's consistency was hard to dismiss. Her own life was thriving. The tech company position was challenging and rewarding. She'd made friends in the neighborhood, joined a community group for single parents, even started dating casually. Nothing serious, just reminders that she was still young, still whole, still capable of connection. The twins turned 18 months old, then 2 years old. Time moved forward relentlessly, and throughout it all, Kim Hyun-woo kept his promise. He transitioned out of his Chicago organization, laundered his assets into legitimate businesses, and rebuilt his identity as a tech entrepreneur and investor. The transformation took 2 full years, exactly as he'd predicted. By the time Minho and Zara were 2.5, Kim Hyun-woo was effectively clean. Still wealthy from wise investments, still connected to powerful people, but no longer actively criminal. It was during a routine Tuesday dinner that he said, quietly, "It's done. I officially severed all ties to Chicago operations last week." Amira looked up from helping Zara with her spaghetti. "All of them?" "All of them. Tae-young-no is running things now. I'm just a retired investor who moved to Portland for the tech scene. How does it feel?" Kim Hyun-woo considered this. Strange. Lighter. Like I've been carrying weight I didn't realize was crushing me until it was gone. "That's growth," Amira said simply. After the twins were in bed, they sat on Amira's porch, watching the rain that seemed perpetual in Portland. "I need to tell you something," Kim Hyun-woo said. "I've been in therapy for the past year, working through the violence, the cruelty, all of it." Amira was genuinely surprised. "That's good. Really good. My therapist asked me what moment made me realize I needed to change. I told her about the night at the gala, about what I said to you." He paused. "She asked how I'd feel if someone said those things to Zara 25 years from now." The thought made Amira's chest tight with protective rage. "Exactly," Kim Hyun-woo said, seeing her expression. "I'd destroy anyone who spoke to our daughter that way, which means I have to reckon with the fact that I was that person. I was the man who humiliated someone vulnerable because it made me feel powerful." "You were," Amira agreed. "No point softening it. I can't undo it, but I can make sure I never do it again. To anyone." They sat in silence, the rain drumming steadily on the porch roof. "I don't know if I'll ever forgive you completely," Amira said finally, "but I respect what you're doing, the work you're putting in to be better." "That's enough," Kim Hyun-woo said. "That's more than I deserve." 3 years after leaving Chicago, Amira stood in her home office, a converted bedroom that housed her growing freelance cybersecurity consulting business. Legitimate clients, Fortune 500 companies, all completely legal. She'd built something extraordinary from nothing. The twins were 5 now, attending an excellent public school where Minho thrived in structured learning, and Zara charmed everyone with her fearless curiosity. They spent time with both parents, loved deeply by both, benefiting from the stability Amira had fought so hard to create. Kim Hyun-woo had become a reliable co-parent. Not perfect, he still struggled with the patience that parenting required, still occasionally reverted to authoritarian instincts from his old life, but he was present, committed, genuinely trying. Their relationship remained professional, cordial, occasionally warm. Nothing romantic had developed, and Amira was fine with that. She'd learned that not every story needed a love-conquers-all ending. Some stories were about a woman refusing to be broken, building a fortress of intelligence and determination, and teaching her children that strength comes from integrity, not power. Her phone buzzed with a message from her lawyer. Major tech company wants to acquire your consulting firm. Initial offer, $2.3 million. Amira stared at the message, then laughed. She'd gone from being publicly humiliated and fired to building a multi-million-dollar business in under 6 years. The old Amira, the one who'd walked out of that gala in tears, wouldn't have believed it possible. But this Amira had died the night Kim Hyun-woo tried to destroy her. This Amira was unstoppable. She texted back, "Schedule a call. I want to hear the details." Then she walked downstairs to where the twins were building an elaborate block tower with Kim Hyun-woo, who'd stopped by for his weekly visit.
"Mama, look!" Zara called. "We built it so tall!" Amira smiled, settling onto the floor beside them. "That's because you're both brilliant builders." "Like you," Minho added seriously. He was always the observant one, already understanding more than he should about his mother's strength. "Like all of us," Amira corrected, glancing at Kim Hyun-woo. He met her eyes with an expression that held gratitude, respect, and something that might have been admiration. They'd built something together. Not love, not romance, but something arguably more valuable. A functional family from disaster. Safety from danger, partnership from humiliation, and Amira had done it on her terms, with her rules, never compromising who she was. That night, after Kim Hyun-woo left and the twins were sleeping, Amira stood at her bedroom window, looking out at the Portland streets that had become home. She thought about the woman she'd been 3 years ago, terrified, desperate, convinced the world was ending. She thought about every moment since, every strategic decision, every boundary defended, every fear transformed into fuel. She thought about the twins sleeping peacefully down the hall, safe in a life she'd architected specifically for them. And Amira Wright smiled, because the story everyone expected, the humiliated woman rescued by the powerful man who'd hurt her, that wasn't her story at all. Her story was about a woman who rescued herself, who turned humiliation into power, who built an empire of safety and success using nothing but intelligence and unshakable determination. Her story was about strength that didn't need validation, power that didn't require permission, and triumph that came from refusing to be broken. That was the story worth telling. That was the story she'd make sure Minho and Zara knew by heart. The world had tried to make her small, and she'd responded by becoming magnificent. That was victory. That was enough. The end.